Hey,
That was
everybody.
awesome.
You made it. You made it. You were late.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
Happy
Rob.
Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I am a mess, man. I got home from the gym. I didn't even bother to shower or comb my hair. I'm a freaking mess. Look at me.
Yeah. I'm not looking great today either. We got HTK in here. It looks like 21 Sandwiches in here.
Oh, Brother Peter's in the chat?
Yep.
Hold on. I got to get the chat. I got to get
Imagine
this.
we'll have a few more people in here. Yep. You can thank Brother Mike Mullis and God, I'm drawing a blank. Who helped you with that, Mike?
MrMatthews. Oh.
What?
Never mind.
Intro.
I thought you were gonna.
Oh, well, the
Thank
intro,
you, time.
the Gamers United Guild video was my doing. Graphic God Jay Williams built the GUG logo.
Okay. So let's get started here. Oh, be ready soon. So we got people filtering in here. How was your weekend, Rob?
It was good. So I don't think we're gonna get a chance to talk about it this month, but I've been celebrating Halloween for the past 4 weeks. I actually started probably halfway through September. So I've been kind of like clockwork going through all my Halloween movies.
Right.
So that's what I was focusing on this weekend. I actually wanted to I kind of wanted to talk about it on the show, but all of our topics have been really, really good. Like I kind of had an idea to do it last week or last 2 weeks, yeah. But the second one was just like, well, let's talk about that instead.
So we keep doing that. Everybody has their own like pet topic, and then we keep finding something we all agree on real quick, and then that's what we talk about.
So that's what I've been doing all weekend, and well, pretty much every night for the past month.
Nice.
Mike?
I was camping this weekend.
That's right.
I went out.
You were camping all weekend. I got sucked into Metroid Dread.
That is still in cellophane on my game console desk, just waiting for the right time for me to invest like a week or so into that.
Yeah, I finished up a couple of projects. I did actually go ahead and took your advice and uploaded that review, which has a copyright claim. So
but a claim is better than a strike.
Owned by Sony Entertainment, blah blah blah, and put in the dispute. So we'll see where that goes.
Like I said, there are for people who don't know, it's a review of the Ghostbusters, the original 1980s movie, Ghostbusters. There are so many reviews on that movie on YouTube. It's an illegitimate claim, I think. I'm sure they'll drop it as soon as you dispute it. So it's fair game to review a movie. I don't know how much of the footage you used, but I'm guessing it probably wasn't a 90-minute review. So
no, it's like 19 minutes, and I mean, there's clips where it's just me talking, and there's clips where I'm showing footage, but there's no audio to it, and then there's short parts where I used audio, but I'm trying to keep that to a minimum. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the format and how that works, because most of the stuff I do doesn't hit a copyright infringement for the most part. And this one was just like, it didn't matter what I did to it. Like Sony's like, no, we hate you. I'm like, but I'm buying like so much of your stuff.
Sony hates everyone.
Right.
Yeah, that's got to be. I don't know the minutia of copyright law or fair use and all that, but doing a review of a movie or a game or an album, that's like their number one example of, here's an example of something that's fair use. So they'll like I told you, just because their software flags your video, it doesn't mean that the entity attached to it actually means for your video to get flagged. It's just an automatic thing.
It could be the algorithm. It could be the algorithm.
I get things that get flagged every now and then, and it's like the second they're uploaded. So obviously, it's an automatic.
I knew it was an automatic thing. It's just like a lot of times I can upload or work around it and trim something or change something, and it doesn't get flagged. And so I usually try to do that rather than go through the whole dispute thing, because usually the dispute thing, if they drop it, it's like 30 days or something like that before they bother.
Yeah, I've had to remind myself, like, their email box is probably full of these claims where they probably just get so bored with it, they probably just kind of go in mass. They just go approve, or just deny them all without even reading what the claim is. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, our
My
main
video
topic
game-
for tonight, and the only topic we have, is physical versus digital. And to kind of break this up into categories, and I was going to spitball this before we got on here, but I guess we'll do it live and include the audience, is
That's right.
how do you want to define, because we've sort of kind of got a new definition of digital or physical, depending how you look at it, with when television dropped. Then you've got your straight digital. Then you've got your Game Pass form of digital. And then you've got your streaming form of digital, which is like Stadia, right? And Luna, I think it is. I think Amazon's got Luna.
Luna. Yes.
And then you have like your physical games, which the further back you go, the more I believe it's actually physical. The further into the generations you go, like say starting right around late PS3, early PS4, I'd argue it's just a license key on a shiny disc.
Well,
Personally.
that's exactly what it is.
yeah.
They
Once I
tell you
started
that's
realizing
what it is.
that, and honestly, for a lot of those PSP games, it was an empty case you were buying with just like a little voucher to go on to the PSN and download the game, which I hated. Like, don't charge me $20 for an empty case with just the intention of directing me to your store. But I figured that we could, for this, I was kind of thinking about this topic all week, that this would be a good one to lift the embargo on a Miko discussion, just because it was their little card thing that kind of kicked off this whole discussion. Yeah, your little.
I haven't opened it yet, but yes.
But so essentially, this thing works like an amiibo, right? Or amiibo card. The game is loaded on the.
In a sense,
Yeah.
yes. Basically, it's an authorization to be able to download it. So you tap it on there, and then it downloads the game. The difference being is you can sell it, and whoever has that RFID card plus the code that's on it, when they touch it to their system and enter in the code, they have rightful access to it. So the next time that your console connects to the internet, it removes it off of your console and leaves it on their console.
Right.
So you can keep it, and they can still install it. But as soon as you're connected to the internet, like say you disconnected your console from the internet, the first time you reconnect it after it's been sold and somebody else has bought it and installed it, it will uninstall it from your console.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's not exactly what I imagined it was. So I guess I needed some clarity. I was thinking it was actually
it uses a combination of RFID and NFT.
Well, like
So
Retro
it's tracked
Advisory
via
Board. I don't know if you
blockchain,
heard
so it
tonight.
can do that trick of uninstalling it, right?
Is Rad
Right.
tonight? Yes, he is. So on one of your Amico After Dark discussions, he was describing a potential physical media workaround that I kind of thought this was, where, for example, when you buy the game, you're actually buying like a model of the car, for example, that would appear in this hypothetical racing game, and the game would be loaded on the car toy. So instead of a cartridge or just something you're still getting something that still kind of counts as a physical
So
disc.
It's an item that you can trade and sell, and somebody can use it to play the game, or at least
Right.
download the game.
that
Unlike
was
the way
a
they were doing PC games back in the day. And I want to get to a few of these comments before we get too deep into this.
All right,
So
let's do it.
Kill-9's physical media doesn't require internet connection updates. You can just install it and play it. Well, that kills everything from the PS4 and up immediately.
correct.
You don't need to install it. Everything's on the disc or cart. Whatever's there to play the game doesn't rely on anything else. Okay, that kills everything Xbox and up immediately.
Xbox One and up.
Yes. Xbox,
360, yeah.
OG Xbox and up. That right there kills everything past then. So
No,
from
Xbox-
Kill-9's
OG
summation would
Xbox
say
and 360
Genesis and below, or N64 basically and lower, is physical media.
OG Xbox and Xbox 360 did not need to install.
OG Xbox did install though. Halo installed.
You can. You have the option, but it doesn't. It's not like the Xbox One where it's got to install the entire game to the disc or to the hard drive. The hard drive is there for other things and for caching, which is what the Xbox 360 also did, which is why you could play games without the hard drive. The Xbox One is the first console where, like the PS4, the entire game had to install from the disc to the hard drive, and then had to go and authenticate to, wherever it authenticates in order for it to play.
Well,
and get updates and stuff.
To answer your question here, this comes into a gray area because there are games on the PS4 and on other consoles that you would say aren't physical because they always have to be connected regardless. Destiny, technically, you should be able to play solo. It still has to be connected to the internet.
Right.
Outriders, you can play that whole game solo, still has to be connected to the internet. Doom Eternal will oftentimes kick you out of your game if it can't connect to Bethesda servers, regardless of the fact that it's a single-player game.
I'll have to try that. I'll
had a buddy who was complaining about that. Michael Melton, who used to run a channel called Picky Old Gamer, still does occasionally, said he was having problems with that. He would get disconnected from Bethesda servers, and then it wouldn't let him play until it reconnected.
Yeah, I'll have to test that for you. Well, you know what though? I can't because mine's on Game Pass. So I can't.
And Game Pass is a whole other scenario where you can install the game, but unless you're online, you're not authorized to play the game because it has to do a check every time you boot up the game to make sure, one, it's still on Game Pass, and two, your account's in good stead.
Correct. Which is also PS Now, by the way.
Right. Exactly. And the PS Plus, those games, when you get those games for free, you think those games are free and you think those games are yours, try canceling your PS Plus account.
Yeah, you're just basically renting them, which I can
renting them.
Yeah. Now, the only games that you get to keep are on the Xbox side and only the Xbox 360 games. You can keep those, but that's it.
So basically, we're looking at like 316 down, mostly physical games. You can still do like efficient game preservation on them, and this whole topic kind of leads into game preservation too, right? Because, and this is something I'm always going to talk about from here on forward because of the way the gaming scene has changed. Because the moment you install a game, a lot of games have 80 gig day one patches that radically alter the game from what you got on a disc. So unless somebody comes in later, say limited run or something like that, where we get a physical medium that can store these large size games, like say Warzone at like 150 meg or better, 150 gig or better, then you start to have a problem of being able to store these things and then reinstall and run the ROM. And how many of these have always online components that down the road make them almost completely unplayable? Because even MK10, if you go out and you buy the Ultimate Edition of that today, still has to connect to a server to authorize those characters on your PlayStation or your Xbox. Otherwise, you're stuck with Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I know this for a fact because a friend of mine bought the Ultimate Mega Super Edition with all the extra content, and it took him 4 hours for the server to recognize his key card on his disc and unlock the rest of the characters. So what happens when those servers go down and you try to run these later?
Look at Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. That thing was absolutely broken and needed a severe patch to run. Look at Cyberpunk. There's a number of games that have these giant patches that without them, the game is broken. And what do you do with that?
Right. And Nick, I do want to ask for clarification on what you meant with like the PS3, because the PS3, that era was when I kind of just started stepping more and more off the modern console train. But I have many PS3 games now that I can continue to play anytime I want. Yes, the console needs to install them off the disc, and there is that waiting time, but I would still count that as the same kind of physical media as like a cart, where I'm always going to have access to that game, even if there's no servers attached to most of those games for the most part. So, I mean, unless I go, online multiplayer notwithstanding, but
yeah, I'm not concerned with multiplayer in this discussion. If it's a multiplayer only game, you go into those games with the understanding that those servers will eventually go down, and this game is now defunct. It's the same way you go into an MMO, right? Eventually the servers are going to go down. That game will not play the way it did before. And the nature of MMOs and certain games like that are to evolve and change. So the game that you bought originally is not the game that you have 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because it has to constantly evolve.
Right. Okay. So I guess that's how I would say that it may have started, like with the PS3 era, where there were some games that were only playable with an internet connection. But I think that if you're several consoles removed from that modern console, and you can still play the games just like you could back then I would still say that still counts as traditional physical media.
Right.
It just takes longer to actually boot up the game.
You can buy a physical copy of. Here's a couple of examples: No Man's Sky, Sea of Thieves. These games aren't now what they were then, and that's a very good thing, because comments like Waves here: digital media also allows developers to expand beyond the limits of the storage space and create a more detailed government, audio, etc., and just to add more content and to flesh out the game even further, to make it more engaging for long term.
Well, and to be fair, one of the things that physical or digital media allows you to do in this age of the internet is it allows you to fix issues. Look, you bought a PlayStation 1 or a Saturn game, and it was trashy because it was poorly written or had bugs and things like that. You were stuck with it. Whereas now, with a Sea of Thieves, which was very barren at the beginning, you can build on it. Or with Tony Hawk, they fixed it. Or they're trying to fix Cyberpunk. I say trying. There are games that come out now. The other side of that coin is it has turned developers, call it what you will, but it's turned developers lazy a little bit, because
they're using that as a crutch, because they I was waiting for you to stop talking so I could say all right, we're on the same page then, that developers are absolutely, it's maybe, I would say maybe the money behind the developers are honestly pushing them to get that game out the door.
I wouldn't say the developers themselves intend to ship a product that's bad. I think they get pushed into meeting a gold release date come hell or high water, and then the money behind it just says, well, you can fix it post.
Yeah, it's already been proven time and time again that they can release a essentially broken game. It's going to sell like hotcakes because of all the steam you built up behind the game. It's easier to apologize and fix it than it is to delay the game and make people cancel the pre-orders or whatever. So
because you end up in a catch-22. You delay it again to try to make sure that the product's in good stead, but you've delayed it so many times now that now you're in such deep water that the fan base wants it anyway. So you bring it out, and then they roast you alive because you brought it out and it was broken. So you're in a no-win scenario at that point, right?
Yeah, whoever's making these calls just needs to actually trust the gamers at home that will actually be patient enough we'll wait another month or 2 or 6 if you release a game that's actually playable. Like everyone said that there was I never played it, but that Cyberpunk was a really good game underneath all the shit you had to go through to actually play the game.
Right.
That is both the best and the worst game of the year. I've heard those kind of statements made. So it's how much better would it have been if they just let it sit in the oven for another however long it needed.
Well, the problem with something like Call of Duty is you have yearly releases, right? So you're on a ticking time bomb every time you release those. And that actually kind of comes into Wave's comment. When I worked at Infinity Ward on Call of Duty Modern Warfare, we had a release date, patch date 1, patch date 2 for deadlines. So they've got that down to a science. They know they're going to release it and it's going to be a little buggy. But they have hard set release dates because they have to get that game out so they can make the amount of money on it, make the sales that they want on it. Because they know they have another studio that's already working on the next one because they alternate studios on those so they can do it on a yearly release schedule.
Right. Well, and there's also the fact that people still spend that money and they still buy those games no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, Call of Duty can be as trash as possible, but as long as that multiplayer is good, people can get online and shoot each other. It's going to be the top seller of the year. No, I think the issue is people think that there is physical media now, and there isn't.
There really, right now, I would argue that it really isn't physical. You can't just, with the exception of the Switch. With
the exception of Switch, you're right.
I had a really happy happenstance. I plugged in Dread, I put the card in, I booted it up, the game just came up. No updates. It just booted off the card.
Yep.
I can't tell you how much that made me giggle. I was just like, oh my God, it just booted up. Yes. Because that never happens, even on Nintendo games. Like, they're small patches, right? But they're still patches.
Yeah, there's still regular updates and stuff.
You could plug the card in and you could play it, which is kind of why I'm such a big supporter of the Switch. I know you don't like it, Mike, but it's one of the last bastions of real physical media we have right now.
What is that? What are you attacking me for?
You told me multiple times you don't care for the Switch, and it's fine.
I don't care, right? But I'm not that guy that goes out and says just because I don't like it, you can't like it.
I feel like you're judging me every time I say I like it, though. I feel judged. I feel judged right now.
You should feel.
Maybe that's
judged.
just how you feel.
Look at Mike judging people. Look at him. Look at him.
He's not responsible for your feelings, Nick.
Right.
Don't make him pay for your insecurities.
Yeah.
No, but
if I was going to judge you, I'm going to judge you on that Ratchet and Clank background.
Hey, you know what? I threw this up real quick because I had the Amico one on there and it didn't seem appropriate for the podcast, so I switched it.
Mike's totally that guy, by the way. Yeah, that's me. That's me. Yeah, that's me.
Full game on disc or not, you still don't own the game. You just have it licensed. And this is absolutely correct.
I picked the wrong game for this, but I pulled out one of my Xbox One games. And I say I picked the wrong game for this because...
Dimensions?
No, yeah. My son and I played
Don't
Dimensions.
get me wrong, that's a fun game, but that's kind of like dead. Didn't the server
Yeah, it is. Look at the text on the... That's the text on the user agreement. So I need to pull out my glasses to see it, but it says right up front, WBIE Games grants you the non-exclusive, non-transferable, revocable, limited right and license to use one copy of this product solely and exclusively for their personal use.
Yeah.
And revocable. So that's the important word here. You basically are at their mercy. And this has been the way since the PS4 and the Xbox One. The minute that they shut down servers for games and the authentication piece, these will become non-usable.
Yep.
And that's where people kind of falter with, well, the one advantage that I could do with this is I could sell it. I could trade it to somebody, I could hand it to somebody. That's still the big selling point to why people still buy physical discs over digital. And that's something that to date nobody's really tackled. I know that Microsoft in their 2013 plan was trying to work that out, but they had the about face very quick, and well, there you go. That's what I think Intellivision was trying to do with these, is to give you the digital piece, which is we got to download it from the internet because there's no cartridge slot on the console, but give you an out to give this to somebody, sell it to somebody, rather than just use the code on the back of the RFID code and it's used once and that's it. You got nothing. Hey, Brother Lance. So that's the allure of physical right now, is that you can still hand it to somebody, sell it to somebody, and move it along. Whereas you can't do that with digital right now.
They can take it home, they can install it, they can play it, and see if they like it, and they can either hand you past this, or if you're done with it, you can just leave it with them,
right?
Or you can sell it. And Born makes another good point as far as games coming out broken or too early is, and we've all had this discussion, and we're all in agreement with this. I don't think anyone's going to argue this point with you. Maybe developers shouldn't announce their games so early in production.
Yes, like before. But I mean, that's also kind of like that's part of the science.
Catch-22.
That's part of the science that they have, boiled it down to. We're like, you got to get that hype train rolling. You got to, like, how long have we been waiting for Metroid Prime 4? That was announced at the same time. That was announced at the same time as Metroid Returns or Samus Returns, which we now already have the sequel to. So, meanwhile, 3-4 years have gone by. We haven't seen. It doesn't really seem like they've even started on Metroid Prime 4. Maybe they shouldn't have teased it.
I have a debate.
Technically, Dread is a sequel to Fusion, more so than Samus Returns.
Yes, but I mean, we've now gotten the follow-up. It's the same developer, so all that. So it's the spirit of what I said is true. That I had that debate with my NLG brothers, because there's several games that we have no idea, no updates for. I'll give you one Hellblade 2. It was announced at the Video Game Awards 3 years ago. And, that takes time and COVID and all that stuff, but they've shown nothing for it. Not a thing. And you're going, our game coming out? Is it, what do we, and people are like, well, Mike, just wait. Just wait for it. It'll, you have other things to play. So, well, yes, but I'd like to know that things are at least progressing well. Another good example is The Last Guardian. That was teased a long time. Everyone's kind of assumed that this would turn into vaporware. Was it a 5 or 6 year disparity between the actual teaser? 7 years.
There was a couple of them by Microsoft. There was that one, the kid and his dragon or something like that. Scalebound or something like that.
Scalebound.
Yeah, and that one never made it, and that was hyped like crazy.
Because Platinum screwed that up. There's a whole story behind that. Now, hold on. Sorry, let my cat out of the...
In Zombie, while I agree with you on this comment, part of that price was set so that people would still buy physical games, because the retailers still had a heavy amount of sway. And so, in order to keep physical games in the store and not have them just drop them entirely because nobody was going to buy them, they made digital cost the same as physical. That was part of it. That was part of it initially. We moved so far past that now that I don't know that still holds sway, but now that everybody's used to paying that price, who wants to lose that money?
Right. Well, retailers, I think retailers are getting wise. At first, you can't. I remember having this argument too. Retailers, are going to stop digital media, because they can't handle losing that money. But what you're starting to see is those same companies are now selling codes. I remember back there was an Xbox One Madden bundle that Microsoft was selling with a digital code, and GameStop wouldn't sell it. They refused to sell it.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's part of the reason for the price disparity, at least is how I grew up understanding it. as to why. Because I thought the same way as, well, I'm not paying for the case. I'm not paying for a physical disc. I'm not paying for the manual. You're not having to ship it anywhere, so this has no reason to cost the same $60 as the physical edition.
That's the other piece of it. And see, retailers could put physical box copies on sale, whereas the digital version could still be full price. Right. That's always been a contentious piece of this debate too. You know, why still pay $69.99 for? We'll go back to your Mortal Kombat. You know, Mortal Kombat 10, where or 11. Let's call it, because 11 is the newest one. Mortal Kombat 11 is $69.99 here. Walmart's selling the physical box on sale for $29.99. Well, why would you even? So that disparity, that's what the other thing that retailers don't want to lose.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that I always keep a console with a physical disc slot. Is for that reason, because things have different sales. So sometimes I'll buy something digitally, or I'll just, and depending if it's got a physical release, because some stuff doesn't have a physical release.
Yeah.
Like Ghost and Goblins Resurrection, I don't think had a physical release.
I think we're still waiting on one. No, not yet. And also Cuphead. I think we're still waiting on that.
Which one?
Oh, the
Cuphead.
DLC for Cuphead.
Oh, Cuphead, yeah. And Cuphead initially didn't even have a physical release either. I think it eventually got one, didn't it?
I thought it didn't yet.
Well, it's I mean, if you count the Switch, yes. Because it came out on the Switch.
Did you release Cuphead?
Yes, I think it did. I want to say it did. I'd have to double check.
I already had it digitally on Steam, so I didn't pick it up. And that's the other thing. A lot of this stuff is kind of a moot point, because consoles finally going through the same transition the PC did years ago. Because PC used to either get like a number of floppies, a number of discs, etc. You'd install all of it, you had it on there. You might have to change discs or something like that during the game to access part of it, but you had it all on there. And then eventually it just got too expensive to produce the discs and stuff, bring that out. And what they started doing is selling you a box with a download code. And thus was the death of physical media on the PC scene. Steam had already taken a large market share. And so pretty much everybody was already doing digital. And so by the time the codes came out, like you'll notice, like the only thing that even has like a physical presence as far as PC games go are cheap little inexpensive Java games that you can download, like, click find the object kind of stuff. And there's usually like 8 or 10 of them on a disc. And even those are getting harder and harder to find because you can just pay for a subscription for those now, and then you can play as many of them as you want. So there's really no need for it. Eventually, I see things kind of going the same way, or using something like what we just talked about with, the Amico's solution to that. So retailers still have an object that they can offer, something that your mom, your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, your friend can wrap for you for a present for your birthday or Christmas or whatever, or get a neat collectible with, and have that as like the physical object that you get with it, and mostly have a transferable, trackable code that you can use to not only play and install the game, but to transfer ownership of that to somebody else.
Nick, Zombie's comment with the being this one. I wonder if that's actually part of the game. It's for one thing, it's probably it's cheaper for them. It's cheaper, obviously, for them to release it digital only. But if they wait a little bit, they know they might be able to get you twice. Because there's honestly, I have a digital version of Cuphead, and I will buy a physical version of it. Did I say digital the first time? I will double down on games because I'm just not patient enough to sit there and wait for the.
I've done that sometimes with digital, man. I bought something on the PS4 and started playing stuff more on PC or on a different console, and dipped in again to buy the game again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do that. It was just dumb.
All over again.
All right. Well, are we talking about just smaller indie titles with this? Because obviously the bigger releases are, typically all get physical releases.
Yeah, I guess we're mainly just talking about like the Ghouls and Ghosts. Was it Ghouls and Ghosts or Ghosts and Goblins? I don't know. The Resurrection game is a really good example, just because that was a pretty big digital release, and a lot of people were waiting to buy it physically, and they're not going to buy digital. They're going to just wait for it to come out on a physical cartridge. which it might not do, but that might be part of the game, I think. So they might just know that these people like me, I'd rather have it physical, but I'm not going to wait, a year to play the game if I can get it right now for the same price. So it's
yeah, and some of it I think is they're gauging interest in the title too, right?
Yeah.
Like with Ghosts and Goblins, they knew that was kind of a niche title, and they knew that's a frustrating title. Like Capcom had to know that game just drives people like to break controllers, right? So they had to know when they released it, like this may sell really well because we haven't done one of these in a long time, but it may not. So let's just release it for a reasonable price point on digital and see how well it does. If it sells well enough, maybe we'll release it as a physical edition, maybe a collector's edition, a steelbox edition, and these same people will buy it, and maybe somebody else will pick it up too, right? So yeah, it's kind of part of the game, but part of it's testing the waters, I feel like.
Yeah, and that's true. I'm checking right now to see if that Cuphead actually got a physical release. I don't know if it did because I was waiting for it.
That's what I'm actually. That's what I'm looking for right now myself.
Yeah, and Lance is saying the physical and digital games shouldn't cost the same price, and I don't think you might have come in a little bit late because we talked about this a little earlier, Lance. None of us really disagree with you, but that was kind of an agreement between the console manufacturers and the prices of things on their store and retailers who were selling the game physically as well. The retailers did not want to lose sales because the game was cheaper to buy digitally, and they knew they would.
But here, I put a link in the chat to show this is what's happening now. Here
it is. Okay.
So so that's not a physical release of Cuphead, but what Target is doing, for example, for $20 is selling the code. Yeah. And that's where retailers are. That's where retailers have decided if you can't beat them, join them.
Right. And that's
you can buy the card.
You buy a card that's got the code on it.
Yeah, you can technically wrap that and send it to somebody, but again, to me, it feels a lot like giving somebody a gift card.
It's exactly what it is.
It's basically
that's exactly what it is.
I laugh every time I see those because, like, you don't need a card specifically to buy that one game. So I just the ridiculousness of buying a voucher for that. You're buying a $20 PSN or Xbox Live gift card is what you are. It's got a Cuphead logo on it. So the idea that you're buying that is dumb in the first place.
I don't disagree because I've never bought a game code this way. Because if I'm going to buy the game digitally, I'm not going to buy a game code in a store. Now, I see this as targeting more like, your mother, your father, your grandmother kind of thing where they want to have something.
Because grandma wants to play Cuphead.
Well, hold on. There is one scenario that makes this work. And that is if you're, let's say, let me see if GameStop sells it. Because if GameStop sells it, then your selling point is come trade in your old games to get it, which you can't do online.
See, Waves pretty much confirms this too. Putting it out digitally is totally used to test the market. The same way that putting out these remakes of Crash, Spyro, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is basically to test the market for a new game with those IPs. And that's how I've always thought about it too. When they start releasing these collections, it's to see if that nostalgia is great enough. Kind of like the Insane trilogy, right? That came out before you got Crash 4. So that sold really well. And then they already had the idea to kind of start working on Crash 4, I feel like. But they wanted to see if it was okay to really push like whatever prototype they had to a full production game. And so since it sold really well, boom, you get Crash 4.
Right. So yeah, so you can get that same full game download card from GameStop for $17.99, and if they sell that in the store, then you can simply take some old games and go trade them in and buy the code.
No, I understand it from that standpoint because honestly, Game Pass and stuff like that used to work the same way. People used to always buy the games with gold cards because they would go on sale on Black Friday and stuff like that. So people would buy a $60 subscription to Games with Gold for like $30-$40. So they'd buy 3 or 4 of those, and they would just dump them all on their account, and then they'd wait until the next time that it came up.
Now, we didn't even like preface this with a round table. I already kind of know where you guys stand, but how do you guys lean? Are you guys more physical or digital? We need to kind of go
start
around
with this one. I'm split, and the reason I'm split is because my PS5 has a physical game slot. And I do that intentionally because, and I said this when the PS5 was pre-ordering, that I wanted a physical edition. Not because I plan to buy everything physical, because I want access to both types of sales. So if the physical copy is cheaper than the digital copy at a given point, I may buy it that way. If the digital copy goes on sale and the physical copy never really drops on sale, I can buy it that way. Depends on when I'm in the mood to buy it and which one has the better deal. On the Switch, I lean more towards physical copies almost exclusively. Almost every single game I have on there that I can get a physical copy of, I get the physical copy of. And the reason I do that is, one, I do like supporting physical copies when I can. And two, I feel like when I buy a physical game on the Switch, I'm actually getting the game. I don't feel like I have to install tons and tons of patches. Now, there are certain games that like extra characters and stuff like that, like Smash and things like that, that's extra content. That's fine. That's extra content. But if I were to take Smash and just uninstall it and reinstall it, and I have it connected to the internet, I can still boot up and play Smash. And I can still have a good time with it. I won't have all the characters except for like the base 64, which is still a ton of characters to be able to play. But I don't have to do anything else to be able to play that and enjoy that. Whereas if I buy a PS4 game or an Xbox One game or a Series game or a PS5 game, I know unless I install that day one patch, it's probably not going to function right.
All right.
And it's going to be a problem. Or it won't even authorize. And then I can't play it anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much all digital. There's very few physical games that I'll buy. The biggest thing for me in my old age has become convenience. I'll be dead honest with you. Sometimes I just don't want to get up and go change the disc out.
And I was thinking the same thing, and it gets particularly frustrating this generation because when you change the game, you're just changing your authorization code.
Right,
so
but I mean,
you have to get your fat ass off the couch.
Right, I gotta get up. What is it? I gotta get off the couch. I have to go to my shelf, get the game, pull it out of the case, put it in the machine. Then if I want to go play something else, if HTK says, "Hey Mike, let's play some Back for Blood." All right, hang on, let me get up, go get and so that just that to me is just a matter of convenience. So I like this idea of having all my games digitally, kind of like I do with my with my music. If I want to play something, I go double click it, and when I'm ready for the next song, I double click it, and I like that.
Now, I was a big music collector when I was younger, and when like the iPod came out, the iPod, not the iPhone, the iPod, when it came out, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to start getting MP3s, and why would I want to trade in this great physical disc and the manual? I could read the lyrics and all that stuff. And I hung on, and I was staunch and firm-nosed and had my heels dug in the sand on that one. I was not going to embrace digital music at all. And then, I have, hundreds and hundreds of CDs still. I haven't touched those in, 15 years. Just because once I actually this is better. And for me to actually have all my entire music library on my phone now, and I could just click the thumb. So I try to be 100% physical media. Cartridges, it's just like a small part of it. I like physical, tangible things, and I don't really consider it really mine unless I can touch it. So I very much like to have physical things. But I do often find myself wishing for the convenience of being able to just kind of touch the controller and switch to the next game, because it is a pain in the ass that the TV and the console is all the way across the room. I'm comfortable on my couch.
That's like 3 steps.
Get up and put
it's terrible.
Footrest down.
It's exhausting.
I'm 13 feet from my TV. It's not just get up and my TV is across the room.
Yeah, I've seen profits with me. Like, I've adjusted to doing digital, at least on PC, just because there's no other option, right? And there was a big fuss about that when that happened too. It's not like everybody went, okay. No, people lost their minds too. It just, over time, you had no other option, so you just gotten used to it. And the nice thing about it on PC is most people adopted stores like Steam. And Steam has found ways of keeping even a lot of your older games viable and playable, like years down the road, where they wouldn't be supported any longer with things like DOSBox and all that stuff that they'll set up for some of the older games, so they'll still boot up, right? So you can play games that if you had the original disc and tried to play it now, you would have to go out and find all this crap in order to get it to run again, or just keep your computer on Windows 95 or whatever it was on and run it that way, because you wouldn't be able to run it anymore. So from that standpoint, digital has actually been a good thing for some game preservation on the PC market, because people have found ways of being able to run these things and run them on future hardware. And you don't have to keep the old console hooked up. It doesn't matter what kind of hardware you have. You can still kind of run the game. So from that standpoint, it's been a very good thing. And the closest the console market has come to doing that is, quite frankly, I got to get to Xbox on this one. They've done a very good job of moving a lot of their games forward in generations, where you can still use your discs, or you can get another copy of it, and you can still play it on your current generation console.
But I mean, isn't that, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you are with the backwards compatibility on the Xbox, doesn't it basically turn that old game into the key that activates the essentially the ROM for the new hardware? Or because when I put a 360 game into the Xbox, what is it, the Xbox One console, is it actually running the game off that disc, or is it
no?
Okay.
No.
So
it's still downloading the game like anything else, because what it's doing is it's running in an emulator and an emulator wrapper.
Yeah.
So,
and it's pretty much how, and Steam, when you buy a game like that, they always kind of start future proofing stuff that's on there. Like, people go through new certification processes to make sure it works moving forward. It's kind of like the same thing that they're trying to do with the Steam Deck, right? They've sent these kits out to developers so that developers can double check their games that they have on Steam, so that they can make sure that the game works on the Steam Deck. And I'm sure there's going to be another icon, kind of like their little VR icon when the Steam Deck launches, saying this is certified to work cleanly on Steam Deck, right? So if you don't see that, it may run fine, it may not run fine, it may have a good resolution, it may run like crap, it might completely crash, you don't know, unless it has that icon. So you boot it up and you see if it works. At worst, the game crashes, and then you boot up something else, and you just don't run that one on your Steam Deck.
Is there substantial data for the latest games on what are selling more, the physical releases or the digital? Mike, do you know?
Yes, you'll typically get that when companies are doing their quarterly financials. They are starting to do that breakdown, and MPD is starting to incorporate digital as part of their overall sales. EA, for example, is about 40% digital, right as it sits now. And I think that number is only going to get higher, continuing on, because people have, as their own subscription service continues to build and be part of Microsoft's. I think their physical sales are going to start to go down. I think a lot of companies' physical sales are starting to go.
For all my complaining and pitchfork waving and all that kind of stuff and doom crying, people's way of shutting me up, but it was kind of a fair argument, is that you Robert, might like physical media, but most of the other people playing games, they play the game and then they return it to GameStop, get another game, play that, beat it, return to GameStop. So my question to you, for example, Nick, how long do you hang on to a game? Like, obviously, the less time you actually intend to hold on to a game and replay it, obviously, the less you're going to care whether it's digital or physical. So do you have?
I haven't traded a game in ages.
I mean, do you still have your PS3 and your Xbox 360 games?
Yeah.
Like, what are the oldest games you actually still
I've got my Wii games. I've got my 360 games, my PS3 games, my PS4 games, my growing PS5 collection, my 3DS, my DS. I don't have my OG Xbox or my Dreamcast, and that's because I was still at that age where I needed to trade things in to be able to afford my next console.
Yeah.
So I often used trade that way. As I got older and I had more disposable income and realized more and more how much those stores are ripping people off and both selling them the used copy but giving you money for your copy, the less I wanted to trade anything and the more I just kept it.
Yeah.
So it was part a screw you if you're not going to pay me what I feel like it's worth or a reasonable amount towards something in your store, and then you're going to take my copy. Like here's one that kind of broke the camel's back, and this is where I sort of stopped doing this kind of stuff. I went in to pick up, and this was back in the Dreamcast days, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and so I picked up the used copy, and I'm like, $35. I picked up the new copy and had it in my hand, $40. And then I looked to the person and said, "What the hell?" And he said, "Yeah, that's the price." And I went, I'll just pay the extra $5. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, I'm not giving you full profit on something when you're only cutting $5 off the retail cost. I would rather the developer and the publisher get this money than you.
Yeah. Which is fair. Well, hold on. It's not exactly fair, but I can at least understand that the brick and mortar store needs to.
Not her
No, I know. But I can at least understand the logic of GameStop needs to charge almost full price for these used games when they're new, because that they don't make any money off of the new games they're selling. They only really make money off the used sales. I've heard.
Yeah, they make very much profit off new games. They do make a huge amount of profit off used games.
But me and GameStop is another ball of wax too. Like I stopped shopping at GameStop when I realized that they were opening up new games, playing them. They're taking the games home, playing them for themselves, playing them in the store, and then they'll still sell them to you as new. That pissed me off.
None of the games are actually sealed in box half the time.
Yeah,
every time I bought something, they pulled the disc out from a sleeve from behind the counter.
If I'm not going to be the one tearing the cellophane off, then don't sell it to me as new. That's bullshit. But GameStop has more problems than just that.
Yeah, it's a strange business model. And here's a couple of other comments here to kind of get back to some of the comments. Triple, say we have an unfortunate event happen where we lose all our physical media, be it flood, tornado, hurricane, etc. Digital, you can still gain access without a loss. So while you might lose your physical console, you're out $200, $300, $500, whatever the cost of the console is at that time. But you buy it, and then you log back into your account, and you can download all those games again, and you're at loss whatever accessories and stuff you lost in that incident.
That's a fair point.
Yes. And I lost my entire Laserdisc collection to a flood, so I feel that pain. You know?
And here's another cool thing from Profit that I didn't even know about this. About 6 years ago, if it was Steam compatible, you could install the game from the disc versus the internet. So it was great for slower connection users to install their games. Because, I mean, if you, for some reason, had dial-up or DSL or still have DSL, trying to install some of these larger, more modern games is kind of a bear. Going completely digital when you have those kinds of connections is awful.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, you get a game like the Halo Master Chief Collection, which is 150 gigs. I mean, that could take you all day.
Yeah. If you're lucky, it'll only take you all day, depending on your connection.
Oh,
I mean, in a normal connection where you got like 250 megabytes or something like that down or better, and I say that as a normal connection for somebody who can afford like some form of cable or fiber, right? Basic cable or fiber, you can usually get around those speeds with pretty reasonable price points. For that, it's pretty reasonable to be able to download games and to be able to have games like that. The downside is for people that are in more rural areas that have to use DSL, or God forbid they still use, say, a 56K modem. Because I did that all the way up into the 2000s. I was playing WoW on a 56K. You want to talk about painful? Holy crap! But yeah, either just trying to install that or play that on dial-up is an impossibility. So there's a whole realm of people that are basically. I laugh because I feel I've seen this kind of stuff. 15 CDs.
Yeah.
15 CDs to install a game. Because that's where they were getting, and that's kind of why physical media started going away. It was costing them more to manufacture all the discs, put all the labels on them, put them in a box, and ship it to the store than the game was worth. So eventually, it was just like, okay, we're done. We're done here.
Yeah, and I can see us. Obviously, the games are only getting bigger, so there is going to. I think we already reached that point where the games are too big to be contained by the physical media itself. So it actually literally has to be digital or nothing. However, it does seem like Nintendo does fit an awful lot of game on those little cartridges, which probably have, I don't know, but
I think those things can.
It's got to have less storage than a Blu-ray disc.
I think those cards can hold. Those flash cards can hold like 2 gig. And I think they have some that can hold more than that, but they don't get used often because they're more expensive to manufacture.
Yeah, I can't remember when the last time I actually bought a new game from GameStop. I want to say it was BioShock 2. It was the last new game I bought. And when they were doing their fire sale on the PS2 games and the GameCube games, great to shop there. You can buy a bunch of games for $2, $3 each. But yeah, I would rather give my money to Target than to GameStop. Plus, I just hate the GameStop shopping experience. You just have
I'm not a huge fan of it either.
Up your ass as soon as you walk through the door, and they are constantly hounding you. Can I help you find something? Can I help you find something?
Your store's 15 feet wide.
Yeah, no kidding. And what drives me crazy about that is GameStop isn't the only one guilty.
They don't even come out from behind the counter to do it. They yell it from behind the counter. Can I help you guys? No,
honestly, on the few stores I've gone through, they've usually had like 2 or 3 employees there, and they're not paying attention. It's a tiny store, so they should know. One of them has already asked me if I need help finding something, but I usually get asked a couple times. And then once enough time goes by, the first guy will ask me again, do I need any help now? What drives me crazy, though, this is where I'm off on a tangent now.
This is now the game.
There's something about the shopping experience that GameStop does not understand, and they're training their employees to get around this. So basically, if I go in for the latest Madden game, I just go in, I ask for help, and they direct me right to it. I buy the game. It's a freaking example. The latest Call of Duty game. I ask for the game, they direct me to it, I buy it, I leave. However, if they let their customer base to actually go through and just kind of page through the games and look and browse around, odds are pretty good that person's going to find something that they didn't even know they wanted. And I'm that kind of shopper. I'll impulse buy stuff that I didn't even think about until I actually saw it on the shelf. So shut up, you stupid GameStop employees. Not your fault. You're just trained that way. But God, that's why I stopped shopping at GameStop. They wouldn't let me shop. So
yeah, Prophet's got a few things. Sometimes technology moving forward is a great thing because he loved it when they changed from vinyls to CDs. And well, from vinyls, I think it went to cassettes and then it went to CDs. And I'll be honest, I was so happy when we went from cassettes to CDs because I don't know how many tapes that just got 8.
I wore those out.
And it was just so bad. And then when it went to MP3 and we started going digital, which I have mixed results with digital because there's stuff that I swear I bought that when I go back into my account, like now I don't have it and I have to I'm either rebuying it or something, or I can't find where I backed it up. And so I don't have that anymore because I ripped it from original CDs and put it in there. So it's kind of a mixed bag sometimes with digital. But for the most part, it's been like you log into your account, you log into your new phone, you connect it to the cloud, it knows what you're authorized to by your account, and then you download your music, right? At least in the Apple ecosystem, right? Your mileage will vary between applications you use and whether or not you use Android and what kind of storage you're using there, because Android's a little bit more open as far as like what you can put on it. Oh yeah, 8-track. I'm sorry. Yeah, it went vinyl, 8-track, then cassette, then CD. I forgot about 8-track, Red. Thank you for calling me on that. I only knew about 8-track because my uncle had an 8-track player.
You never had a 2XL. That's why.
Yeah, that's probably true.
My grandmother had 8-track. I loved it.
8-tracks are weird.
They are weird, but
that's right. Going from cassette to CDs meant you didn't have to carry pits around with you all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Or you had to have that thing that went in your but then you had to have that thing that went in your cassette deck to let the CD player play. Remember that?
Yeah, early on, yes.
Really
that's when they first
too.
had the first like Walkman disc players. And then that quickly got replaced by the face feeding disc players and then the 6 disc changers and all that. And the thing that I had problem with CDs, particularly for like music, is if you have them in your car, I know it couldn't have been the only one of those that had like the little thing that was stuck on your visor.
Mm-hmm.
You would flip it down, you would slide out the disc, and then you would put the disc in, you put the other one up there. But the problem with that was you kept scratching up your CDs, and eventually your CDs would skip or not even read because those things were so abrasive.
Yeah, I think those were specifically designed because they knew it was going to tear up your disc that you have to buy more. That was I lost a lot of CDs that way. They didn't put a warning label on how devastating it was for the surface of the CD, taking it in and out like that.
And see, I think vinyl's great for audiophiles and for people that would just sit down and just listen to music. I've often thought occasionally to start getting a vinyl collection and have like an actual nice like record player that I could plug a nice set of headphones in, but it's the kind of thing that I don't want to play it from the record player. I want to plug in like a really dope set of headphones and then drop the needle on my vinyl record and listen to it that way, right? That's how I want to listen to that kind of media that way. I want to have like a setup where I sit there and maybe I've got some brandy or some whiskey or something, and I just sit there and I sip that and listen to music.
Is it live or is it Memorex?
Hey, what?
Is it Nick or is it Memorex?
You know, you don't
sit back with the glasses and the brandy.
You know, I'm getting old, and sometimes I just want to have a drink and listen to some tunes, man. I've been hanging out with my buddy on the weekend. One of the nicest evenings we had a cigar, we had a glass of whiskey, and we were just listening to like some old 60s and 70s tunes, man, on like a JBL speaker I had set up. And it had the lights off because it had like a little light show on the speaker, and we just sat there and talked about music and smoked and drank. It was fantastic. We didn't do shit. It was productive. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I've been buying some vinyl also, just a little bit. I mainly just focus on the ones that they were originally out on, like Judas Priest albums, old Metallica albums, stuff that you would have had to have purchased on vinyl when they came out. It just seems more appropriate to listen to older bands on vinyl rather than get like Muse's new album or whoever the new bands are. I don't know.
Hold on. One of the comments was held. Okay, here we go. Prophet's like, this show is great. It's not just retro and everything. I don't know shit about retro games or arcades or Atari 2600 or Dreamcast, but I do know whatever other media I was used as a kid. There we go. And that's kind of where we wanted this show to go. This is kind of about talking about the modern situation of gaming from people that have lived through a lot of the previous eras. I wouldn't say all of them, but I mean, because I didn't really have an Atari. I had a ColecoVision, but most of us had something from like ColecoVision or Atari forward. So we've been gaming and using media and been part of nerd, geek culture, whatever, for
Rob
a
didn't
long
ask.
time now.
Rob didn't ask me, but there's.
I honestly expected more of a physical answer from you. So you kind of surprised me when you said you're.
Well, I'm digital now, but if you look at that left side bookcase, that is all my physical stuff. Dreamcast at the top, Saturn in the middle, Sega CD, 32X in television. I mean, I've got a ton of physical media. And it's funny because when I do my Saturn streaming, it proves my point. I'm like, all right, guys, I'm finished playing this game. Let's play something else. I'll be right back. And I have to get up. And so you don't see me on camera for like 2 minutes while I go and I get the box and I change the disc and I have to sit back down. And so, I mean, that's the whole thing. But back in the day when there was no digital, of course I kept a ton of that stuff.
Well, and I think that's part of that experience. Like, while I emulate a lot of stuff and I can go from game to game, I totally get why somebody would want the actual original hardware, because that's part of that experience. That's how, like, okay, so you look at the PS4 and the experience is basically you just boot up the game and you play the game, right? For the most part, it's being installed anyway, so most people will buy a lot of digital content. That's how those consoles are generally experienced, right? That's why you have digital-only versions of these consoles now. You start going further back to, like, say, Dreamcast, N64, Saturn, etc., where they didn't really have anything installed. Part of the experience of those games is getting up, popping out the cart, putting the new card in, flipping the switch. There's a certain dopamine effect you get from that, right? There's a certain satisfaction you get from that. Even I get that. I don't want to pay the prices for that experience is my problem. Because I don't want to pay $90 to $100 for Ghostbusters on the Genesis, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to pay $130 to $500 for Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. I don't want to pay $1,000 for Earthbound. I don't want to do that, right?
Do you want to pay $2,000 for a Snatcher?
No.
Oh. Okay. I thought maybe I had you on that one, so.
So, I mean, I make compromises in that respect, but I don't begrudge anybody who has those and wants to play them that way. But there's also a lot of work when it comes to those too, because especially if you want to stream them or play them on a modern TV, because then you have to modify those systems in a lot of cases, especially the older systems, so that they have an input that you can take, or find another device that you can plug them into that converts into HDMI, and then you plug that into the TV, right?
Yeah,
so that you can play them on your modern TVs. Or you go the really old school route and you get your big ass 25-inch or better CRT TV and you clunk that down and you use that.
Right.
And you go full old school. And there's nothing wrong with that. Unless you actually want to stream it, then you have problems.
See, Cyrus, I was being nice to you earlier.
That was fantastic.
He is. I tell you what, man. The PTSD he has from our trip through Pennsylvania.
I know.
Hey, it's Pete.
Yeah,
What's up, brother Pete?
He's got another point. The anticipation of buying the game, taking it home. Maybe you're looking at the back of the box and you're reading it. Maybe you open the wrapper then when you're in the car. If you're not driving, you're flipping through the manual and everything like that, looking at the controls, and you're getting more and more hyped on the way home. Then you get home and you pop the card in, you're all like ready to play. That kind of stuff's awesome. I used to love having like physical Transformers that way, the old school Transformers. I'd flip them over and read all the bios and stuff like that and look at the little power charts and all that stuff and look at the box and see what was in it and, you know, try to figure out how I'm going to transform before I ever get out of home. So part of the hype of that kind of stuff is it's literally the ride home, right? Especially when you're a kid and you're not the one driving. Hi, Pete.
Yeah, there's definitely that tactile satisfaction that comes from just anything you could touch, I suppose. I'll rephrase that, but yeah, whether it's toys or games or music.
I'm a huge toy collector, by the way, Prophet. I haven't gotten back into doing it. It's on my list to start doing toy reviews again. Because I've got a huge collection back behind me of just stuff. Masterpiece Transformers, G.I. Joe Classified, Nintendroids. I'm a huge physical product collector, not necessarily just games, but just physical stuff. Oh, Armada. In retrospect, I wish I'd bought that line. That was a great line. Sorry, I've ruined it over the toys. Sorry. Really get back in. Sorry, guys. My bad. Get me on Transformers and I'll go off on like a tangent.
Yeah, I know. Somebody says Gen 1 and I'm like, all right, let's go. Everybody says Mask, and that's a whole different show.
Oh God, I want them to bring Mask back so bad.
But Mask was so unrealistic. All the car did was lift its doors and flew. That's not even like, come on. You back then, seatbelts weren't mandatory, so you rolled and you were out.
You know what? I don't care. It was still fun. They were great.
They were.
I had a lot of fun with them, man.
I'm surprised they haven't brought Mask back, though. I mean, there's a pretty devout following for that, more so than like Dino Riders.
Those are so good.
I think
Prophet's going to hit me on a tangent again.
I could talk toys.
My favorite Prime, to be honest, Prophet, is still Power Master Prime. That's still like my bar none. I think the coolest Prime ever designed. The original toy was a little less articulate. I thought about buying a new third-party one that looks a lot better. But I have like one now that's a lot more articulate than the one I had as a kid. But there's some of them that are great. See? Helicopter bike. See?
Yeah. Because that was real. I mean, I don't know. It's not that I enjoyed Mask. I just don't know that it could translate into today.
It was a gloriously 80s series. Like I think one of the vehicles was this big old completely 80s monster truck, and then basically an 18 van. I had the only one I actually had was like a drag car racer where the wheels popped out as wings. And to this day I don't have any vehicles anymore, but I do have a bunch of the figures kicking around.
I used to have like the helicopter jet one. I had so many of those. God, they were so cool back in the day.
It was so close to G.I. Joe, too. You know, the antagonist was a guy with his face covered, looked just like Cobra Commander.
Yeah, it was great.
It was.
You makes G.I. Joe with Transformers, man. Come on. Like, I'm going to hate on that?
That and, what was that 80s movie? What was that crazy 80s movie with the futuristic weapons and the dude with
Star
the motorcycle?
Wars?
No. The dude with the motorcycle. Oh man. I can picture it.
But dude with the motorcycle.
There was a blonde, short blonde haired, rugged looking guy, and his motorcycle had lasers that shot out of it and missiles and stuff. It was like a whole 80s movie that had a team like Megaforce. Thank you. No, was it Megaforce?
Okay.
Was it Megaforce? Hold on.
Was it?
Hold on.
I'm not. But those were guys with armor that they could attach things to.
With the flying motorcycle. Yes. Thank you, DeLorean Hayes. You got it.
We're getting all sorts of new people in here. I feel like I haven't seen Prophet till tonight. DeLorean Hayes I haven't seen till tonight. Hi guys.
And Chuck, I remember in Humanoids.
I haven't seen pop up in a stream or anything like that. GoBots, I have mixed feelings for because I loved some of the GoBots. It was definitely the budget man's Transformers. Don't get me wrong, I had a ton of them, but they were definitely like budget Transformers in my mind.
I just like how in the GoBots commercials they went for a completely different transforming sound. They emphasized the click, 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 click of all the different transformations.
Yes.
They made it look pretty cool. I like the GoBots cartoon more than the Transformers cartoon. Although
Barry Bostwick. That's who it was. It was Barry Bostwick.
I don't know if I could talk to you, Matthews. GoBots cartoon.
No, well,
really?
hold on now.
Yeah, there we go.
So here's the thing though. The GoBots could transform into robots with the humans still inside them. If the Transformers tried to transform, if Optimus Prime tried to transform with Spike sitting in the driver's seat, Spike would have gotten crushed. So you would see blood and stuff come out like.
You're reminding me of a Robot Chicken episode.
Right. So.
Okay, we should probably drag this back to digital versus physical.
Well, now it's Transformers versus GoBots.
I'm gonna have to do like a toys podcast now.
We might. Well, we could do it.
Retroroots, amazing.
Retroroots does not exactly. We did not exactly define that as video game.
It doesn't have to be video games.
We did not, but we did do this episode on digital versus physical. And you try to give me a digital transformer and I'm going to laugh at you. I'm sorry. It's just not a thing. There's a certain amount of tangibility. And I will own up to putting money down on the self-transforming Optimus Prime that like talks and rolls on his own.
Yeah, I remember.
But I'm pushing the line.
All right,
on
here we go.
Here we go. It's the fun of physically transforming, and now it does it on its own.
That thing is
awesome.
awesome.
It would be really cool.
Oculus Quest versus Viewmaster. Go.
You know what? My Viewmaster still would work if Facebook were down. My Oculus won't.
You know what?
That segues brilliantly, actually.
I had
digital
real
games and their
quick.
servers going down because
This is
Oculus Quest and all that has to be connected to Facebook in order to run. If Facebook goes down, you no longer have access to your library. Doesn't matter anymore. So that's another problem for digital media in that sense.
Oh yeah. Well, that's just it. At some point, handset.
Oh,
good one. Wait a minute. Hold on, Zombie. Did you have the Viewmaster that did audio? I had that one.
I never had that one.
It had the little disc, and then it had a disc that was attached to it that went into the thing, and it played audio like a record. It was really cool.
Was the projector one where it looked like a movie projector, and when you turned it, you actually saw the animated movie or a clip of the animated movie?
Oh my God, I remember those. And
it was usually only like 15 seconds of whatever the movie was. That's sweet.
Look at
I'm just
that.
here to drive Zombie a little crazy with my masterpiece. I love this guy. I never transform him because he transforms into a tape deck. I never like transforming the original either because why would I ever want him not to look like this?
Because he needs to hide.
Did he come with like Ravage or?
Yes.
Yeah, he actually came with like 2 tapes, and then you could
Ravage and
the other one I didn't
Laserbeak.
get was Rat
Laserbeak.
Well, and also
Laserbeak,
Buzzsaw, Laserbeak,
Rumble.
and
Rumble and Frenzy. Right.
Frenzy.
You saw all 5 of them in the movie.
Yes, and Blasters versions of them
And
too
Blasters,
came out
right.
in the movie as well.
Yep. Sick 'em. And the dogs came out. That was it. Yes.
Was which one was the I always forget which one was like the main tape because I know that Frank Welker was the voice of the main one. I don't know if it was Frenzy or if it was.
I thought Rumble was the main.
I think
Rumble.
Was it Rumble?
One, I think he was the blue one. Frenzy was the red one.
Yes.
Ravage was the one used the most. Second only to like maybe Laserbeak.
Ravage and Laserbeak were like the schoolyard favorites for sure.
Yes.
But when you watch the cartoon now, it's like it was really much only him, Frenzy or Rumble, whoever the character's name is.
Laserbeak was shown right at the beginning of the series. He was the first tape you ever saw on Cybertron because he was spying on Prime and Ironhide and those guys while they were. That's and so when in the movie when he was spying on it, that's the first thing you saw in the movie was Laserbeak. So
yeah, he was the first one shown in the movie because he was doing the whole basically long distance recon at the time.
He was good at that.
Yes.
See, I wish they had done that instead of the recon they did what they did in the Michael Bay movie, where they ruined my childhood.
I could show up
because they did that
for an hour.
A lot of different ways.
We're running on an hour and a half, close to. I don't know if we got anywhere tonight with digital versus physical, other than it kind of depends.
I think we kind of exhausted that.
Yeah,
I think it goes to where it depends on A, preference, and B, what you buy.
Did we win? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. All right, so but the last thing we should cover is subscription services like Game Pass.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that.
Yeah,
and we can make that real quick.
I almost feel like we're going to argue about this for an hour, but we're going to try. I have a love-hate relationship with Game Pass. I love it because I can get a lot of content for a very inexpensive price, and I can kind of get a taste of everything. It's kind of like going to a buffet, getting a little bit of everything. Sometimes they stay on there for a long time. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes I've saved myself some money, like Skatebird that I did a review on. I was so glad I installed that via Game Pass. If I had paid real money for that, I would have been pissed. I would have been legitimately pissed. Because it was not worth the money.
Right.
And that's why I even said if you're thinking about playing this, just get Game Pass for a month. Play it, have some fun with it, and then play some better games. Because you got it for a month. And stuff like Back 4 Blood popping on there is great. What I don't like about it, and this is one of my big things, is it's cyclical. So I'll have something installed that I no longer have access to, and if I want to play it again, I have to buy it. Or every time I want to play something, and I have to make sure it's online. Because if I lose internet for whatever reason, and I happen to be... And I've now tested it when I've been in the middle of a game, like say a single-player game, and I lose access. I don't know if it would stop me from playing the game, or if it would still be okay until I shut it down, or if it would freak out. Because it's rare I lose internet for any length of time. My internet's usually pretty stable, but it does happen. And during those times, I can't boot up those games, whereas anything I have on Steam, I can just boot up and play. No problem. Even offline.
All right, Rob, go ahead.
Well, I am something of a boomer, I can admit. I don't use any gaming streaming service, so I'm out on the Game Pass.
And for these reasons, I'm out.
Yeah, I kind of toyed around with like PS Now a little bit, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of a fun way to. The thing is that I see these streaming services for games the same way I would see emulation. As soon as you start opening up literally all the games, I like to be limited to the ones I actually have in my collection, because I don't like having too many choices, because then more often than not I'll just be like, I'll go read or something. Like I don't like having an unlimited buffet of digital games to choose from, because I just can't really find myself really getting invested in any of them. Whereas if I put a physical game in, and that's actually out of my own game collection, I'll usually just sit there because I'm too lazy to change out the disc or the cartridge. I'll just play it until I'm done. So that's another good example of why I wouldn't want to actually have basically an iPod or an iPhone full of games to cycle through whenever I want. I need that limitation of actually having to get up and change the game.
See, I don't. I don't have that problem.
I'm just explaining why I don't. I basically use the. I knew that we have been wanting to talk about Game Pass for a long time. It's come up in almost every single episode we've done.
It really has. And I
so
feel
that's
like
why I was like, oh, hey, if we talk about if physical versus digital, now you guys can get this Game Pass shit out of your system and we could let it go. I don't even know what it is. I just assume it's kind of like PS Now. So
it is. Well, no, it's better than PS Now. It's all right. So I can make this very quick because it's easy for me. I don't have a lot of disposable income like I did when I was younger. Before I was married and had 3 kids, I would go on, where would I go? I think it was Amazon. And I would order like, I don't know, $200 a month worth of DVDs. Just stuff because I could. And I could watch it when I want. Or just have. Because I collected that stuff. Now I watch Netflix and Amazon Prime. I don't buy movies. I might buy the occasional 4K movie, but not really. I stream everything.
I buy a lot of them. Digitally, and I find I rewatch them more that way because I have like my tablet with me, right?
Right.
I can either stream it or I can download it to the device, and then I can use it like say on a plane or something like that. I've done that multiple times where we'll go on a trip and we'll have like a 4-hour trip. And so what I'll do is I'll download a couple of the movies that we have in our digital collection to the tablet. And then we'll boot up one of those when we're on the plane when we got in airplane mode, hook up like a headphone splitter, and then we'll sit there and watch a movie. And I like it for that reason because I still kind of own it in that way where I can download it onto a device and play it. And you can still kind of do that with Netflix, I think, now. I think Netflix and Amazon Prime allow you to do that to an extent.
Yeah, to an extent. But for me, I mean, I'm finding that Game Pass represents a value to me that I can't deny. I've always said too that if Sony follows suit and puts their first party games day and date into PS Now, I will instantly subscribe to it. Because for me, just to give you an example, I played through Psychonauts 2, didn't have to buy it. When Forza Horizon 5 comes out next month and it's or in a few weeks, don't have to buy it. Halo Infinite, and so I also find a couple of gems that. So to take Nick's point, and run with it, I find a couple of gems on there that. I'm glad that I played, but I was all hyped up for 2 years on 12 minutes, on that game 12 minutes. And I played it. It was in Game Pass. And probably about 2 hours after playing it, I gave it up, never uninstalled it, never wanted to touch it again because it wasn't the game that I thought it was. Because the other thing, too, is we don't get a lot of, there was very little information about that game. You didn't see any big previews or anything like that. So you really couldn't see what the game was going to be before it came out. So Game Pass affords me the ability to play games because otherwise, if I was stuck buying every game I wanted to play, I wouldn't be gaming right now because I couldn't afford it. This gives me an affordability and it gives me a choice. And yep, there are some games that cycle out, and sometimes you got to bite the bullet if you want to, and they'll give you a discount for it. But I do know that there's enough in there that I can always find things to play, and so that's the allure.
I think that's part of it too, because even the stuff that comes on and off, to kind of build on your point, it's almost like being able to go to Blockbuster, but your rental's for like a month or two. Right? So you can pick up a game and you'll take more chances on games that you might not normally install because it's part of your subscription. And you're only going to have to spend X amount to be able to like play it. You don't have to drop 60 per se on it. So from that standpoint, I think it's a really good value, even if you just want to try it out for that period of time. And then maybe you buy it through Game Pass and you have it on your Xbox app. Or if you're like me and you're on PC, maybe you just buy it on Steam, right? Maybe Steam runs a sale on it after it comes off of there because you didn't finish it. Or you want to play through it a few times, so you want to own it. right? So then you buy it on, like, say, Steam, and then you've got it on a more permanent basis.
Well, and look at a game like The Avengers. All right, The Avengers, for all intents and purposes, was a commercial failure. And so to give it second life, Square worked out a deal with Microsoft to put the game in Game Pass. Because people who had no intentions of buying it was like, all right, well, hey, if it's in Game Pass, I'm going to give it a shot. And install base and engagement shot up and gave the game, and right now is giving the game new life because people, read reviews or they see something they don't like on social media and they stay away. But now it's like, well, it's not going to cost me $60. Let me give it a shot. Oh, wait, this game's better than I thought it would be. And then where these companies then get a little more successful is, okay, well, now I'm going to buy the next DLC that comes out. See, Forza Horizon 4, I got in Game Pass, but I bought both the expansions for it. So Microsoft got $40 from me in the Lego expansion and one of the other expansions. So there's a path for them to sell DLC through Game Pass as well. So that's another avenue that developers and publishers are going through when their games don't quite make it like they thought they would.
Yeah, because didn't Avengers just land on Game Pass?
Yep.
I need to give that one another go. I tried the demo on Steam, and it was like a time demo. And it was kind of meh. It wasn't great. It wasn't awful.
Yeah.
It was kind of eh.
Oh, and
I could take it or leave it.
It's one of those games that I hate where in order to play multiplayer, which is really what I wanted to do with it, because that was the allure of it, you got to go through hours of a single player first. And those are games that I just that's dumb. That's what I liked about Back 4 Blood is that is a multiplayer game. You just get right started with it. So anyway,
Cyrus, some people really love Game Pass and prefer to game using that service. They feel it's the best option for them. They're wrong, but that's how they feel.
I could take Cyrus's criticism if he could learn how to spell.
He gets on to me all the time about it, and then he does it. That's what I find the most funny about that comment. And Prophet saying he can't hate on Avengers because he didn't play it. He plays Call of Duty and loves it. So what can I do to judge a game like that?
Right.
And
but now, Prophet, you can play it.
I get why people find a lot of fun out of Call of Duty. Like most of the people I know that play Call of Duty, that really enjoy Call of Duty, could care less about the story. They just want to do the online multiplayer. That's what they bought it for. I'm the weird man out that if you can't give me a single player story, like I got so pissed at the one that dropped on the PS5 because I got excited for it. I'm like, great, I'm going to go through the story. I'm going to learn how the controls work because I haven't played a Call of Duty game in like 10 years. And then I'll go get trounced online, but at least I'll know what the buttons do. And then they had like one mission. And then 2 months later, another mission. And then a month later, another mission. And I'm having to download all these piece by piece. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this game. I'm done. Me and this game are done. See, I can't invest time in it. I would get so trounced in Call of Duty or any Call of Duty ever. I just not very good at them. Hey, Pace, how you doing, man?
Hello, Eating Control V. I'm going to continue calling him Eating Control V because that's what I thought. Because that's what
That's how I read it. Also, but I have to remind myself.
I know it was so funny when he was in one of Retro Bros chats and we were talking and I think it was in the last Amico After Dark and somebody said, "Hey, Eating Paste," and I'm like, "What?" And it dawned on me. Oh, that's what it means.
You know, somebody pointed it out to me one day too. I think it might have been John or Cy. That's like, yeah, that's Eating Paste. And I'm like, I looked at it again and went, yeah, you're right.
All right, now I got it.
Right, duh.
Right now I got it. Control
Now I
V,
got it.
paste. Right. Let me throw on my dunce cap and sit in the corner
I felt
because
stupid
I
as
didn't
well.
get that.
Trust me, you're not the only one. I felt dumb. Not
So-
that this is an unusual occurrence for me. It was just another in a long chain of events.
That's okay. That's all right.
A lot of
I've
people call it
mistaken.
Control V.
I'll
Just
come to Control V,
eating just
paste,
about
Control
anything.
4, eating. Hey, you, dinner time. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Uh,
So yeah, I mean, I feel like, just to sum things up, in my opinion, digital versus physical, it kind of depends. Just when you're buying physical in the modern console era, you have to realize that A, you don't really own the game any more than if you bought it digitally, and two, there's not much more on the disc than if you just, there's not much on the disc at all. It's mostly just a license to be able to download the game and install the game. I like having both options, primarily because it gives me more sales and more options that way. Game Pass has its place. I like the idea of it as a service. I've got on record multiple times saying it's a good value for your dollar, particularly in the modern gaming era, where things are getting more and more expensive. And it does give you a lot of value because there's, particularly with the Bethesda purchase and all that stuff, there's tons of stuff out there to play. And there's just going to be more on there. So much so that I think with their first party titles, they're going to start to have to pare some of those out that they said would always be up there, because they're not going to have room to store all of them and all the other content that they want to put out there. So I think eventually that content will eventually become cyclical as well. Not as much so as the other titles, but they'll still rotate to an extent. Kind of like anything else does on any other service. But again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. You're not going to have that game there forever in most cases. So you're going to have to play and beat it quickly, or be ready to just buy it when it comes off, or just not have access to any of the DLC that you bought while you were playing it when it was on the service. Because if you buy the DLC but you didn't buy the main game, can't do anything with the DLC when it drops off the service unless you just go out and buy the main game too. So you kind of have to take it with what it is. As far as the streaming services, I don't really care for the straight streaming services right now. I think that's a good idea.
there's not enough. There's still not enough bandwidth
But
for them.
the bandwidth in the United States, at least, is hinky. Connection speed's hinky. It's just not stable enough right now to make it the
Thanks,
kind
Cyrus.
of experience I want.
Yeah.
And then there's a click of vision behind him and on his physical media. So I'll go ahead and go to Rob, who I know is going to have a totally dissenting opinion.
I agree. I disagree with everything you just said, Nick. Wasn't even listening, by the way.
And
I
X
figured
gets
as much.
gets the square.
I have the
Nailed it.
ColecoVision expansion module around here somewhere, but I brought that. I brought that out just for tonight's discussion because I was like, "Here's a physical media right here." It's like the most obvious thing I could think of that filled that shelf space. It's just, I agree with everything you said. The like basically a Netflix for games is something we all kind of. Wouldn't it be cool if they had like Netflix only was like video games? It was something we've talked about for a while. It seems like a pretty logical thing to do. I don't care. So it's not something I'll ever really more than dabble in. So it's not for me, but I can understand how it would be for a lot of other people. I just wonder if there's even, and you guys have already talked about it, enough space to actually have the kind of the large games that people actually want to play, not just, PS2 games or whatever. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. But I'm a huge physical, back on topic, I guess. I'm a huge physical media guy, and that's where I'm hanging my hat. And I get involved less and less with consoles the more they are getting involved, focusing more on vapor, non-existent software, from my perspective.
I wouldn't say it's non-existent software. It's just not on physical.
If I can't touch it, then it ain't real.
You can't touch the ones and zeros on your card either.
I could touch the cartridge. I could
Can't
rub
touch
my
an
fingers on the
atom, but we
contacts.
killed a bunch of people with them. Go ahead.
Well, to sum up, anything from the modern era is digital because it's digital anyway. You just own and install CD. That's it. But I don't begrudge anybody who has physical unless you want to switch, and then I judge you. But no, I mean, I think that I don't begrudge anybody who wants to collect physical. I just wow,
Harsh.
that was harsh.
Oh, that's a really good shot.
But yeah, I'm digital pretty much now because I'm old and I don't want to get up and change the discs.
Everything creaks and pops when I get up. I want to minimize damage.
Yeah.
I feel that way too. Everything goes snap, crackle, pop when I get up. I gotta minimize this.
Yeah. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah, zombie.
Well,
I see that you and I are both we're both curators of these old relics. I've seen your pictures of your old spectacular stuff on Instagram.
Hang on though. I'm gonna make one small comment and I'm gonna regret it because it's already 12:15 and I should get to bed. But cartridges, yes.
CDs not as much.
Can rot.
Yeah. CD rot's a thing.
That's fair. It seems like the discs are a lot more finicky and fragile.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually lost any games to disc rot
it would be
yet.
cart-based. Physical game collecting, not CD. And I know that eliminates a lot of amazing games, but I have more confidence that 20, 30 years down the road that those are still going to work. And my CDs, you can turn around and all of a sudden they just shatter because disc rot has set in.
And I don't know how overstated disc rot actually is, but I don't know what the life expectancy is of a PS2 or a GameCube game.
Your CD's nuts. We're getting all the great comments this late at night, man.
Yeah, I know.
Fantastic.
So
I don't know. With CDs, I don't know. I've had people that barely ever took their CDs out of a case, and then they opened it up and they went to take the disc out, and it was so brittle that it almost snapped just getting it off, like the peg that was holding it in. So it's not always the case. I'm not saying it's common, but it's always a risk. Yeah, if you live in a humid area, disc rot is real. If you live in a drier climate, you don't see it quite as much.
Yeah, it's pretty dry where I live. So
like Arizona, California, Colorado, all kind of arid climates. It's not as big of a deal. But if you're like Texas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Georgia, where there's like a lot of high humidity, Florida, things can be a little different.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't looked into this enough to know if that's 100% true, ink paste or not. I'll take your word for it because I've never known you to blatantly not be honest with me. So I'd say you're probably right. I just not done any digging into it. I just know disc rot is a thing. It's a legit thing. It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm with you, Paste.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on this panel that are the same way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If I lost,
especially, and I've got a bunch of PS3, 360, PS4 games, and Wii games, Wii U games that are in the same boat. They're not as
I
old.
would
but-
lose somewhere in the line of $5,000 if my Sega CD and Sega Saturn collection went.
Yeah. They don't have anything as expensive as Sega Saturn because the Sega Saturn was too expensive for me when it first came out, and I wasn't completely sold on it. And then as I've gotten older, it's only gotten more expensive instead of more affordable.
Good point, though. True.
The disc doesn't rot, you rot.
I've had discs that I got shipped to me that were loose in the case and half scratched up, brand new before I ever unwrapped them. It's a thing. It happens. Just gonna leave his cat there because yeah, he's definitely judging all of us. Jon Snow judges all. I believe that one's Jon Snow. Is that Jon Snow or is that Moogle? I think that's Jon Snow, isn't it?
Yeah, winter is coming.
That's right. All right, guys. I think we've said about all we can say on
Think we
this, at
have.
least for tonight. We could honestly probably revisit this a multitude of times and probably still had. I don't know that our opinions would really change. It's just, oh, that's Moogle. Okay, I'm wrong. That's Moogle. Moogle's judging us all. All hail Moogle.
Enemy Zero is his most prized at Saturn title. I don't even have Enemy Zero.
What's
most
up, back from
prized-
the dead? Good to see you, man.
My most prized one is still Burning Rangers. Followed right
Judging.
behind. Followed right behind with Mega Man 8 Anniversary.
Yep.
That right there constitutes about $1,400 of my collection. If I lost those games,
Big Family Gaming's in here. God,
Hey.
everybody pops in right as we're about to end the podcast.
I know, right as we're going, right? We
This
started
happens every
10:30.
time.
This
I
happens
love
on
doing
my
this
show
because everybody
too.
pops in this late, but
This happens on my show too. We get to 12 o'clock and everybody shows up and we're like, guys, we start at 9.
Well, that's why.
yeah, but in
That's
their
why you,
defense, it takes you till midnight to get to topic 1.
Well, this is true. This is true.
That's why you check and see who else is streaming. Like Eugene is streaming right now. If everyone wants to, that's why you start giving other people to go
Hold on one
watch,
second.
so
Hold on
you
one
can
second.
get out easy.
Eugene streaming right now?
Yeah,
I haven't been to Eugene streaming like forever.
well, that's where
There's
Jin
Eugene.
is. Just so you know.
Gonna
Oh, Pace has Space
know what?
Adventure.
Here's
I've been
what we're
looking
gonna
for that
do.
for years. Man,
guys, I'm gonna put this in chat, and I want you guys to all go check out Eugene's channel because Eugene's an awesome guy.
I think
and a
everyone
fun
here
streamer.
knows Eugene for the most part.
okay.
And go in and say hi to him. Check him out. He's a really good gamer. He's a really nice guy. He hangs out on the channel quite frequently. I haven't caught a lot of his streams recently because, quite frankly, I keep doing streams when he's doing his stream. But yeah, absolutely. Check him out. He is awesome.
Yeah, he's playing thick hip here. I'll take it. He's playing Battle Kid 2 right now.
Yeah, I see that. Man, Battle Kids is brutal. That game is just mean.
So it's actually fun to watch Eugene play that game because Eugene is he doesn't express rage at all. So he's like, that's frustrating. Like it's like,
Really
guess I'll
does.
try again. He has just
What's up, Heavy Metal?
amazing
Hey,
patience. So
We got all the awesome people in here. Hopefully some of you guys go out there and check out Eugene. But it's absolutely right. He'll be like, that was annoying. And you can tell he's kind of angry. He just never vocalizes it and you never see it.
I heard him
It's like
say
he takes
crap
all of it and
once.
internalizes it. It's quite interesting to watch. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and end the podcast here. Thank you so much, everybody that popped in. There are too many of you to name. We love the fact that you guys come in. This is every other week. So
Yep.
next week there will not be a podcast. We will have one the following week.
At
topics
10
are always
o'clock.
Different.
10:30 rather. 10:30. 10:30
10:30
Eastern
Eastern
Standard.
or
time.
7:30 if you're in
Or
California.
7:30 if you're over
West
there.
Coast time.
Yep, and 8:30 if you're in Mountain Time or 9:30 Central.
Just click the video. You'll
Are
get
we
there on
using a raid hashtag?
Yeah, just say like, you know,
Somebody did that to me on a stream once. They came
You're
in and they
supposed to.
all like 3 or 4 people hashtag barbarian raid. And I'm like, all right, cool. So
yeah,
what's
just
going
do
to happen?
hashtag Geeks Raid or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what happened was like they came in like 3 or 4 of them. They said barbarian raid, and then nothing. I'm like, okay, so what? I was all set to be like taken over, and I was all set for a rumble, and it never happened. It was like, oh, all right, he's just playing a game. We're gonna go elsewhere.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what Myers is doing, but this game's something else. If you guys haven't seen Battle Kit's something else. It's craziness. That game's like think Mega Man, only like, you know, 8 million times more brutal.
Yeah,
And
it's
one-hit death.
the quintessential trial and error game. You're meant to
very
die
much so.
and die and die and die.
So,
All
all
right.
right, guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Have a great night. Happy gaming.
Not everyone.
Play on gamers.